Hey everyone, Mini Pika here, and today, I want to go over a thing that people keep talking about, that Link is dead in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, even though Link is not dead in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. There's a lot of composing evidence proven inside of the Awakening memory that proves that Link is not dead. There's a lot of proof in this memory that shows that Link does recognize that Zelda is trying to save him when he turns his head over to her and nods his head, letting her know that he is still alive. There's proof that while he's holding his sword, his destroyed master sword, that Fee recognized that her master is alive and can be saved. These key points of evidence proves that Link is not dead. He is on the brink of dead. He is not fully dead. I would like also everybody to keep in mind that he is a royal knight. So the training that he went through as a royal knight probably taught him to conserve his energy if or when he gets vitally injured. So we could all assume that this is Link using his training to preserve his body so that he can use whatever little strength he has left to maintain calm posture and calm blood flow so that it's not causing internal bleeding. Because we've seen in different memories in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that shows that Link is a very reckless knight. He has no recollection of self-protection, or he has no recollection of thinking of himself first before he acts. We do get a little bit of this when we go to see Impa inside of Kakariko Village, where she states, in quotes, that you are a hero through and through, who do not think of his actions before he puts himself on the line. Now we can assume that during this cutscene that he was putting himself in between Zelda and the Guardian because Ganondorf, or Ganon, wants to extinguish, because he was cursed during the events of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, that demise curse any ancestors or any reincarnation of the hero or the goddess, that they would have to endure as much damage, destruction, and or death that may occur to the next chosen hero or chosen goddess. So basically what happened in Breath of the Wild was the factor that Link is too damn stubborn. He took his skills as a royal knight into protecting the princess, and he went a little too far because he did not take into accountability that there are some jobs that are way too big that require more than one person to handle it at a time. See, the problem with this theory is that he could not ask the other champions to help because the other champions died to the blights of Ganon that were plagued in the divine beasts. And so, do I think Link died in the beginning of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? I believe he didn't die. And it goes without proof that if he really truly died, the game Breath of the Wild would not have been created. There would have been no point to create a game based on a dead hero in the Zelda game to pursue this quest into defeating Calamity Ganon. Now, this would also go into a play of why did Nintendo create the game Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom if their chosen hero already died in Breath of the Wild? And that would prove that Link didn't die, he was just fatally injured, and he was severely knocked out, but he was still able to give Zelda signs, and Fee knew that he was trying to give Zelda a sign saying, hey, my master's still alive. He has a very slight pulse, but he is alive. That is what Fi was telling Zelda through telekinesis, saying, hey, listen, my master's still alive. I can still feel his pulse, but it's a very slight pulse. That is why you can still see him if you look very carefully in the cutscene while he's laying on her knee. that his chest is moving very slightly. Like he's taking very slow, very careful deep breaths to prevent him from causing any more internal damage to himself so that he doesn't die on the spot. And then I want to go over another thing that states that you got to keep in mind the Shrine of Resurrection is on top of the Great Plateau. And the Great Plateau is like, if you were walking that with Link, it would take you 45 minutes to get to the stable, which is where they are currently. So if Link was dead, or he had a pulse to the point where they had, let's say, 5-6 seconds to get him to the Great Plateau and put him in the Shrine of Resurrection. By the time they put him in the Shrine of Resurrection, what we would call here in a real world would be, we would call it a death at, let's say, 3:52 p.m. Link died. So what we would do in the real world is we would not try to use a defibrillator unit, which is a unit that is designed and engineered to restart the heart into bringing back a human. They basically, if our doctors were in Zelda, they would go up to Zelda and say, hey, he's dead. He is physically dead. No amount of defibrillator unit or the Shrine of Resurrection would bring him back to life. He has no heartbeat. Because a defibrillator unit relies on a very, very faint pulse into bringing someone back by restarting their heart. Defibrillator units cannot work on a physically dead human because there is no electromagnetic current going through the human anymore. The brain doesn't work, the heart doesn't work. For Link to come back in the Shrine of Resurrection, he had to have had a slight or very mild pulse to keep him awake while the shrine was revitalizing him. We can think of this in a terminology if we use Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword, when you are going to upgrade the Goddess Sword into the Goddess Longsword, you meet the water dragon Pharaon inside of her spring in a jar. And she's using what's called sacred water that is used from made fairies to bring her body back to life from the fatally injured that she got when she was fighting Girahim, or the Demon Lord. So we can assume, because this water has been in the game now, that this water is the same water that was being used on Link, which is the sacred water, which has been made by fairies and water. So if we use that terminology in this scenario, because we know that fairies are capable of bringing people back bringing them back alive from the dead, depending on if it's 8 hearts, 6 hearts, whatever, but it's able to bring someone back from the dead. But what is the case if Link is not dead, but with a very mild pulse? Well, it would revive him. Correctly would be the Shrine of Resurrection. Revive, bringing someone back from the dead. But revive doesn't necessarily mean it has to be bringing them back from the dead. It could be reviving them from being fatally injured and giving them consciousness so that they are aware that they are, knocking on heaven's door. But there's a thing called out-of-body experiences where the body is still alive, but the soul is not there. Link's soul left his body, but was brought back because of the sacred water. Link felt like he failed Zelda because he failed to protect her during the Guardian. But that is not the case. Because if you play through the entire game, Zelda asks you at the end of the game, do you remember me? And Link looks at her with a face of, oh yeah, I remember you. That wouldn't happen if Link was dead. Because if Link was dead, chronologically dead, it wouldn't matter if he made a bargain with the bargaining statue, or if he made a bargain with the Song of Healing. Any memory that Link had ever had would been taken away and he would not remember anything. For him to give her that "I know you" face at the end of the game implies that he didn't die. He had amnesia to where when he had to find all 12 memories, he was regaining his consciousness and being like, I know what happened. I know how I died. I won't let this happen to me twice. Because he was fatally injured. He was knocked out. In his head, he was thinking, oh shit, I am dead. I am gone. Who is going to protect Princess Zelda from Calamity Ganon? Then 100 years later, he wakes up and he's like, oh shit, I was given a second chance. I better not blow this. And then he frees the Divine Beast and he slaughters Ganon. It's not because he was dead. It was because he was unconscious and he wasn't able to put in the plan that he had in action beforehand. Because remember, Link is a reckless knight. He doesn't think of his own safety before other people's. He puts himself in a very shitty and dangerous situation all the goddamn time when he's doing what he's doing. You can even prove it in a memory where he's sitting on top of Zora's domain with Mipha while she is healing his scratched the fuck up arm from dealing with a Lionel. Or when Link is sitting crisscross on the top of Death Mountain while Zelda is dressing his wounds. He does not know how to protect himself and protect other people in the middle of his battle. He doesn't give a shit about his own self. He only cares about protecting others. And I'm pretty sure when he was in the Knight Academy, they told him, hey, to be a royal knight, you need to learn how to protect your comrades, but you also need to learn how to protect yourself. And in these scenes, you can tell that Link, one, he's 17 years old. 17-year-olds don't generally have the knowledge enough of caring about themselves or caring about others. And to say that Link is 117 years old, even though his body has been in stasis, his mind was not in stasis. Him laying there, being revitalized, his body being rejuvenated in the waters of the spring, his mind is still alive. He's laying in there for 100 years thinking, man, I need to be more careful. Maybe the next time when I get fatally wounded, there won't be a next time. I might actually be dead after this. They gave him a second chance. They put him in the Shrine of Resurrection, knowing that Link was fatally injured, knowing that he had a chance of the water rejuvenating his cells and bringing his body back to full 100% tank of gas. And this was his second chance of being, okay, I need to be careful. I need to protect myself at the same time of protecting others. So let this sink into your heads. Link is a reckless knight. He does everything he can to defend others, but he doesn't take the precautions into place to protect himself. He didn't die. He was fatally injured. He used his royal knight skills that he was trained into in the castle for in case of emergencies if this happened. He was fully aware. He had his mentality. He was just trying to keep his heart regulated enough to it wasn't trying to, stress, anxiety, hyperactive blood flow because of all the severe damage that he took, and maybe some internal bleeding, some broken bones. His hand looked pretty jacked up, so we could assume that his hand was fucking destroyed because you could see it flopping around like a dead fish. Like, all the bones in his hand was broken and it was dislocated. But he was still hanging on to the Master Sword because, it's the Master Sword. Nobody else can wield it other than him except for Zelda. So keep this in mind. The next time before we assume the worst in our heroes, keep in mind the training that they had to go through into, in case of emergency, do this. All right, everybody. This is Mini Pika Plays. Thank you so much for watching. As always, have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.